During the Cold War, the United States military engineered a comprehensive biomechanical and quantum physics framework to weaponize human consciousness. United States intelligence agencies believed the Soviet Union was actively investing in what they called psychotronics. In response, the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency funded decades of their own remote viewing research under classified programs, with names like Scan8, Grillflame, and Stargate. The theoretical foundation for this effort is detailed in a declassified 1983 document, the Analysis and Assessment of Gateway Process. Authored by U.S. Army Intelligence Commander Wayne M. McDonald, the report attempts to scientifically justify astral projection and remote viewing to his commanding officers. To understand how the military believed the human mind could bypass local space-time, we have to reconstruct their theoretical model from first principles. This requires moving step by step from basic neurology to acoustic entrainment, and finally to quantum holography. The Gateway Report treats consciousness as a tunable, energetic technology, a biological machine ready for exploitation in intelligence gathering. This diagram from the report illustrates the brain's sensory and motor cortexes, establishing the biological baseline of human perception. According to the Army's model, normal consciousness filters reality primarily through the left hemisphere, which screens and categorizes incoming stimuli using linear logic. The first operational requirement of the gateway process is to distract or suppress this analytical filter. By boring the left hemisphere into a sleep-like state, the subject gains direct access to the holistic, non-critical right hemisphere. The primary catalyst used to achieve this state is the frequency following response, or FFR. FFR is a neurological phenomenon where the brain tries to mimic the frequency of a sound it hears. If you play two slightly different audio frequencies into each ear, say 100 Hz and 104 Hz, the brain is forced to hear and mimic the mathematical difference between them, creating a distinct 4 Hz brainwave. Prolonged exposure to these frequencies induces a state called hemisync. This forces the typically chaotic, independent electrical outputs of the left and right hemispheres into perfect alignment, operating at equal amplitude and frequency. The report compares a normal brain to a lamp, diffusing energy chaotically. Hemisync turns that energy into a tightly focused laser beam. By overriding natural brainwave patterns with acoustic beats, the military theorized they could concentrate the energy of the human mind to process entirely new spectrums of information. Acoustic brain synchronization is only the first step. To generate the energy levels required for the gateway experience, the process relies on the cardiovascular system while the subject is in a profoundly relaxed, sleep-like state. Look at the schematic of the human circulatory system. When the heart ejects blood, a pressure pulse travels down the aorta, hits the fork in the lower abdomen, and bounces back up as an echo. The report identifies this as the bifurcation echo. In a state of deep meditation or hemisync, this bifurcation echo creates a continuous interference pattern. The competing pressure waves align into a regular rhythmic sine wave, vibrating at roughly 7 Hz, which travels steadily up the spine and into the brain. This specific bodily vibration has a macroscale implication. A resonance of 7 to 7.5 Hz matches the electrostatic resonant frequency of the Earth's ionosphere. The gateway process mathematically models the human body as a massive, tuned vibrational antenna. By reaching this specific frequency, the subject entrains their own energy field with the electromagnetic sphere of the planet. To explain what this synchronized, resonating mind is actually trying to perceive, the report relies on the quantum physics models of Carl Pribram and David Bohm. These theories characterize the universe as a complex matrix of interacting energy fields. The report describes this universal structure as a gigantic hologram. If you drop 3 pebbles, they create intersecting ripples. Freeze those ripples, pass a laser through them, and you project a 3D hologram. Exhibit 2 from the report maps how the hemisync brain interacts with this holographic universe. The coherent mind projects its own energy matrix to intercept the holographic transmissions passing through it, mathematically reducing 3-dimensional data into a perceivable 2-dimensional form. The brain acts as a biological holographic decoder. It reads the astral plane by constantly comparing universal energy frequencies against its own memory matrix to extract actionable meaning. This entire biological and holographic model leads to the final theoretical hurdle. explaining how the mind physically escapes local time and space to view distant or future events. Exhibit 3 illustrates the quantum mechanism behind this escape. In physics, any oscillating wave, including a brainwave, must reach a point of complete rest for an infinitesimally brief instant when it hits its peak and changes direction. The distance of this boundary is known as Planck's distance, or 10 to the negative 33rd centimeters. The report claims that during this momentary point of rest, the coherent energy of the mind crosses the Planck threshold. For a fraction of a millisecond, consciousness clicks out of spacetime and enters the absolute, a state of infinite energy entirely without dimension or boundaries. The United States Army mathematically argued that through synchronized brainwaves and cardiac resonance, human consciousness could literally exit the physical boundaries of the universe to gather non-local intelligence. McDonald's synthesis of biofeedback and quantum theory provided the intellectual cover necessary to justify the program. This rigorous physics framework secured millions in funding for Project Stargate over 2 decades, overseen by high-level commanders like Lieutenant General James Clapper. By 1995, oversight of Stargate shifted to the CIA. The agency commissioned the American Institutes for Research, utilizing evaluators like psychologist Dr. Ray Hyman to determine if the psychic program actually produced results. The 1995 evaluation revealed an insurmountable gap between isolated laboratory anomalies and operational military utility. While proponents pointed to statistical hits in highly controlled environments, the actual data generated by remote viewers in the field was overwhelmingly vague, ambiguous, and erroneous. Evaluators explained the occasional successes through a psychological phenomenon called subjective validation. Judges were retroactively bending vague psychic statements to match known targets, and the program entirely lacked interjudge reliability. The intelligence community reached a definitive conclusion. In over 20 years of continuous operation, no remote viewing report ever yielded actionable intelligence for a single military objective. Project Stargate succeeded in building a fascinating, scientifically adjacent architecture for mapping human consciousness, but failed entirely at its true objective. The Army could mathematically map the astral plane, but that map could never reliably locate a Soviet submarine.